Here.
Fleming.
Here.
Berman is absent with notice. Bowman.
Here.
And Woodward is running late. And Spiz.
Present.
So we have a quorum.
Thank you. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take a motion to approve the minutes from October 16th, 2018. Moved by Top, supported by Bowman. Questions, comments on the minutes?
Nope.
Seeing none, all in favor of the minutes as presented, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes have been approved. Take a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Moved by Fleming, supported by Bowman. Any question, comments on the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of the agenda as presented, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Agenda has been approved. Anyone here to speak under public comment? Anyone? Bueller. Seeing none. Gone. All right, great. Move on to the regular agenda. First item we have up is the Department of Economic Development and Community Affairs. Community and Home Improvement Division 2018 Annual Action Plan Acceptance of Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnership Act Program, and Emergency Solutions Grant Programs. They need to shorten that.
Yes.
Just saying. Moved by Taub, supported by Bowman. Good afternoon, ladies.
Hello. How is everyone?
Good to see
Good.
you all again.
You too. Carla
Hi.
Spradlin is presenting on behalf of the division today.
Otherwise known as Nanook of the North, because I am freezing. I apologize for my attire. It's awfully cold out there. We are here today to do the acceptance of our consolidated grant for Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnership, and our Emergency Solutions Grant dollars for 2018. The total grant is just over $11,800,000. The grant period is July 1 of 2018 through June 30 of 2019. And yes, we are in very late November. We are aware our grant agreements were delayed from HUD, but we do obviously have them. They were presented as part of the packet, and we are looking forward to moving the acceptance process forward through this committee, through finance, and then to the full board on December 6th with release to the communities, our 61 communities who are very anxious to receive their funds very soon right after that.
Okay, great. Questions, Commissioner Taub?
Yes, is the funding the same as last year?
No, funding is not the same as last year.
What?
The funding is never that consistent. So I would say the Emergency Solutions Grants is very close to what we had last year in the $330,000 range. Home Investment Partnership and CUG were slightly higher for this year than the previous year.
Higher is good.
Yeah, higher's always good. But
Okay.
as Gordon would say, our federal reserves are about at the same level as they were in the 1970s.
Right. That's
Okay,
good.
so, yeah, so my other question is this, the rental housing situation, what's being done about that? I know you said that you were gonna do some checking up on that, and
Yes, absolutely. For the 2018 application and the acceptance process, there is not a specific rental assistance component. As those of you who were involved in the process of the application will know, it was much too late in the process to actually come up with a new program, understand the regulations, and put something together that could actually be successful. Because we don't really just want to put money just into something if we can't make sure that it's going to work. So we do have a plan for 2019 to really dive deep into the regulations and what we can actually do with these dollars in terms of rental assistance, whether it be something like short-term rental assistance with a focus on the homeless population, or perhaps gap financing for affordable housing development. We are in the process of kind of looking and diving into those, and we should have something available for the 19 application. But for 2018, full steam ahead with 2018 dollars and as they were programmed originally.
the only thing I'm concerned about is if in fact this does come to fruition in 19 or whenever.
Yeah.
My concern is, my hope, I shouldn't say concern, my hope is that you'll work with the other organizations in this county that already do this. Because
Absolutely.
I think we would like to have a united front I don't think you wanna be supplying rent for 25 years for somebody, they, 1 year from you, another year from him, and so on. The idea is to get people, on their feet and,
Well, we can't do this alone.
Right.
And for 40 years now, we've worked with partners in whether it be the homeless community, affordable housing development, or our local partners in our CBTs. I can say that most recently, right before the Thanksgiving holiday, Carrie, Gordon, Kathy, and I all attended an event that was hosted by the Alliance for Housing, Oakland County's Continuum of Care, where we learned a little bit about their concerns regarding rental affordability in general of housing in Oakland County. We were able to take a lot back from that, and we're in constant contact with folks. So we're going to continue to work with our partners.
okay,
And
perfect.
any program that is designed would need to come before the Board of Commissioners for approval and authorization. And we want to make sure that whatever we design is required by HUD. And we still haven't resolved the fair housing issue yet with HUD. That's ongoing, so we want that to come to fruition conclusion before we decide exactly what we need to do moving forward. And when we do and have that program design in place, it'll come before this group.
And of course, we'll use our advisory council as the policy-making group and talk to them about everything. So.
Okay,
And
thank you,
also
Mr. Chair.
To expand on it slightly, I did talk to Jerry prior to this meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and they are still in negotiations with HUD, the corporate council, and they're going back and forth still. So it's still very much in the negotiating phase with HUD for the rental agreements.
Okay.
All right, any other questions on the first one, David?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and apologize for being late. I guess what I don't understand is why can't we make progress on addressing, doing a better job meeting the needs of renters while the HUD issue is being resolved? I don't understand how one prevents progress on the other.
Well, we do address a lot of needs in terms of rental assistance currently. So sometimes people don't really, it's hard to recognize sometimes what the impact of some of our programs are. So we do have the ability for communities to set aside emergency dollars through the CDBG program to assist people with short-term rental or mortgage assistance, security deposits, first and last month's rent, that sort of thing. We do that now. Housing counseling, tons of counseling provided for tenant-landlord related issues. That's ongoing. We do have also a part of our emergency solutions grant that goes for specifically homeless prevention and rapid rehousing efforts. Again, security deposits, first to last month's rent, that sort of thing. So there are things that are actually happening that address the rental community. Is it enough? I don't think it would ever be enough. But these dollars are small, and there are very strong restrictions on them. And again, as Carrie had said, we need to work through the fair housing issues and to dive deep into the regulations to see what we can do, where we can develop a program that can be successful and really, if not meet, address more directly the needs in the rental market.
What percentage of this grant, CDBG, home, ESG, is being allocated to these programs that you outlined?
Well, one of the things I can tell you is that in the CDBG portion of what I mentioned, there are restrictions on the use of those dollars. So CDBG funds cannot be used for the actual development or construction of housing, just something you may not know. And 30% of the funds is the maximum that any community can use for public service dollars. But there's a tremendous pressure on public services at the local level for things like senior Meals on Wheels programs, transportation, domestic violence prevention. So, and again, what everyone needs to understand is that those are local decisions. Our role is to support and assist our local communities in making good decisions on eligible activities. But ultimately, the decision within the frameworks of the program, it's local. So if they don't feel like emergency security deposits versus last month's rents are a priority in their community, and they want to allocate their funds to youth assistance or a domestic violence shelter or transportation or Meals on Wheels.
Or Haven.
Haven would be under the domestic violence category. They can do that, right?
I understand that.
So
But I
that's
would say that
CDBG.
a lot of local decisions have not prioritized addressing the rental need. And I get that, I understand. So I understand this needs to be a collaborative process. But I guess I'm coming back to, and this is what I've struggled to try to understand. You laid out a number of rental assistant efforts that, I mean, is captured in here, that's allowable, that's ongoing. What percentage of the total amount of monies that we're receiving here is going towards that?
I don't know about
Kathy,
HPRP,
it's-
to be honest, 7.5 or?
No.
40%, excuse me.
40% of our ESG funds go for, housing assistance or rental rehab. And I actually have been doing significant research in the last few months on the home regulations to see how the rental assistance will work. And it is different enough than the ESG that we can't just make it the same program. So we are in the process, we have to do significant policy decisions, tenant selection criteria, payment standards, rental rent reasonableness, utility allowances. So it's going to take time to develop a good program that meets all the home regulations that we can put forward. And we are actually in the process of reviewing those. We've already downloaded all the handbooks, all the books. I've read all the regs and compared it to the ESG. So it is something that is in process, because some things that ESG covers, for example, utility arrears and the amount, credit check and application fees are not allowable under the home. And there's 30% AMI under ESG with habitability standards, and no more than the FMR, where the home regs are up to 60% AMI. And we come up with our own rental payment standard based on the rents in the area that we wish to assist. And there's not but for this assistance, I would be homeless requirement. So they're different enough that we have to really explore what isn't allowed, and come up with a good plan before we present it to our advisory council and then ultimately take it before this.
So how long does that process take?
It's gonna take at least, I think by summer, we should have something significantly in place.
When we bring forward the application for 2019, all of that should be reconciled before we bring the application forward.
And the latest date that we can actually apply to HUD in any given year is August 16th, 18th, depending on how this calendar works, but mid-August. So that would be the latest that we would be able to actually submit an application. So.
And if you recall, the home program is probably the largest pot of money that you can really accomplish rental under. CDBG, the limited public services, their ESG, the dollars just aren't large enough. It's over 300,000 in total grant there. So we'd be looking at all of the regulations that home will permit us to do for rental activities, and those are limited. There's rental rehabilitation, there is a look-alike program, tenant-based rental assistance opportunities. There are a few other, but what we have to do is we have to make sure we have a program that can be 100% in compliance with HUD rules. We've got to make sure that we can sustain our other programs to a certain degree too, because those are good, solid programs as well. So until the fair housing issue is resolved, there are no federal requirements for set-asides for multifamily or rental housing. Those are discretionary pots of money. The only set-aside we have right now is under home is the 15% set-aside that we allocate to community housing development organizations like Habitat for Humanity, Community Housing Network, and Venture Inc. And right now they're in the business of developing affordable housing for sale to low-income people. So that's how we're using that 15% set aside right now. Could that be a viable option to change the scope of eligible activity there? Yes, but we need to look at the limited scope under home of what we can actually do to assess rental activities. And so we will be looking at that, and it may not be tenant-based rental assistance once we delve into the regs and the administrative overhead it would take to administer that, based on, compared to the administrative dollars that we have access to under home. We've got a lot of exploration to do over the next 6 months before we're ready to present a program design.
So I guess it's more of a comment. I guess I'll speak for me as this commissioner. We are not doing enough. I think I've been very clear where I'm coming on this, on addressing this issue. And I understand that there's a process and that we have to do it absolutely in accordance. I do not agree with the sentiment that we can't be making measured progress towards this until this HUD issue is resolved. I actually think, for me, the HUD issue was the alarm that went off in my head that we need to do more. And I would like us to be doing more. Lots of other counties and communities do more. But obviously want to do it in a way that provides the biggest bang for our buck and helps as many people we can with these limited dollars. And so that's a priority. It's going to be a priority for me for a considerable amount of time, and would like to see some progress. Related to that, if I remember correctly, that we have an ability to move some of these dollars around through I don't know if it's an appeal process or a modification. Reprogramming. I don't know if that's being looked at. I would strongly encourage and would like it to be looked at. I don't know how to convey that. I thought of actually offering an amendment today to this, but I might wait just to the floor to see if there's some support for moving at least in the direction of some proposals that we should be looking at to be brought forth to be considered for such things over the coming year. But in my opinion, we're not doing enough. We can do more. I want to applaud everyone who's delving in there trying to see what are all the options available for us. But for me personally, this is a big priority.
All right, Commissioner Taub.
My question is this: once you submit your plan, whatever it may be, and it's accepted, and then now you got the cash coming in, okay, are you able to change that plan?
Yes. It takes a substantial amendment to the consolidated plan and our annual action plan to do that with HUD. And it requires citizen input, citizen participation components, and comment periods that are regulated.
Much the same as the original plan?
Yes. But I might add that there is one component piece we haven't discussed, and that's the analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. In that document, we're working on the request for proposals now to have the analysis conducted per HUD's directive. And once we have that document completed, it will identify needs for us to allocate money towards certain programs that are deemed a priority. So until we get that analysis of impediments completed and we understand what the needs are in Oakland County across the board, then we need to consider program priorities, program designs, dollar amounts, and all of that stuff that goes with the regulations. But we are mandated to do the analysis of impediments to fair housing choice.
Just to be clear though, the analysis of impediments is not going to say, you get $6 million, you need to spend it this way. What it's going to do is identify what the impediments to fair housing are, and it will, in fact, make recommendations. But it's not going to be, you have X, so you need to do Y, okay, in terms of dollar amounts.
It may conclude that affordable housing is needed in Oakland County. It may conclude that there aren't enough resources available for single-family owner-occupied housing. It may be communities X, Y, and Z have very high minority concentrations who are cost burdened in their seeking of housing that you need to, consider as a priority and address those needs. So the regulations are very complex, and so when we start looking at documents that are mandated to recommend needs and funding, then we need to be very careful to make sure we can 100% comply with the programs that we set forth. Otherwise, I would be back here asking the Board of Commissioners to pay back money to HUD for an ineligible expense or activity. So I want to make sure that we protect all of us as a county.
Right, and just to be clear, we 100% comply today.
Yes.
Right, because we've made that comment a couple times, we need to make sure we comply 100%
Right.
comply. We comply today, but what we're being asked by HUD is to look at a different direction to help with rental assistance, which you guys are doing your investigation on. And
Yeah.
also, to be clear, on the 2018 plan, as you stated earlier, it started in July of last year, it only goes through June of this year. So I appreciate what Commissioner Woodward is asking, but from a timing constraint in some regards, for this 2018, it becomes very difficult to start going down a different path. And I believe based on what you're explaining, you guys have already started investigating that, and 2019 plan is probably the best time to address a lot of things I think Commissioner Woodward is concerned about. All right, any other comments, questions, Commissioner Bowman?
You brought up an additional item that I wasn't previously aware of, this assessment. It sounds similar to maybe a needs assessment relative to housing within Oakland County. What is the timeline on production of that assessment? When is that available? How does that happen in play?
We're hoping to release the RFP in early January, mid-January. Once the proposals are back and evaluated, we're going to provide the vendor a 6-month period to complete that. So it will be completed in advance of us making decisions on our 2019 program.
So we've got essentially two controlling mechanisms to direct our planning for the 2019 cycle. One being the HUD decision, as well as this needs assessment. It's possible that they say similar items are directed in the same direction, or alternative items.
Right.
And so that's an important point for me to understand and to kind of put in the scope of work that you are embarking upon. Because an additional item that you also mentioned is that essentially the communities are in control of the allocation of their dollars, but are directed on how those dollars are allocated based on programmatic outlines that are set forth via the county. So they can only spend based upon the guidelines that the county provides or produces. And HUD in that needs assessment may redirect how the county can advise or facilitate the expenditure of those dollars. So I'm kind of rehashing this to get an understanding before I make a finalized statement. I still personally think, similar to David's commentary, that the advance work in preparing for the HUD's assessment, noting that we are not allocating enough funds to rental properties or rental individuals, I think is appropriate. To do that advance work to make certain that ultimately we're not behind the ball when that determination, if and when that determination does come down. But it also, in a way, avails the communities an opportunity to think outside of the scope of how they are traditionally allocating their dollars. They're restricted based upon the constraints of what we offer them to spend those dollars. So there wouldn't be any change in the allocation of those funds if we don't make some policy changes internally or create some programmatic constraints for them to utilize those dollars.
Well, I think one thing that we've done this year with our annual application workshop, which was held in October, is that is the time when we bring all the municipalities in to really discover what types of eligible activities there are, what amount of funds they should plan to receive, because again, we never know exactly how much money there's going to be, but they do have a planning figure. We provide the application, the environmental forms. We dove a bit deeper this year into housing activities, and we did talk to them about opportunities to do public services, emergency services for, small, short-term assistance on emergency basis for housing. We talked a little bit more about ways that if they were interested, that they could explore some rental type activities or homeless-focused activities to bring people into housing. We had those conversations, and we provided more detailed information in the application guide. The applications are not due until mid-December, but I haven't received one single phone call from a community saying, I'd like to have a conversation about exploring doing things a different way with having a different kind of focus on people who live in rental housing.
And I'm going to close out with this. My reality is that the experience within a lot of these municipalities is that they don't have a lot of wherewithal of how these funds can be appropriated or expended. And you serve as the experts. You are the course. And I think that it garners an additional level of responsibility and or support to see that those initiatives are carried out.
Well, our annual application workshop, if I could just stop you for just a second, is that annual application is by far not the only opportunity that communities have to discuss eligible activities. We do a technical assistance CDBG 101 in 2 parts. It's a very intensive, who, what, where, when, why, and how kind of situation. It's done in 2 parts with different staff in each different situation. We have ongoing technical assistance. Each of the staff that's in the CDBG team monitors individual communities to give and provide that kind of support. I agree with you, and I think we all would, that administrative capacity at the local level can sometimes not be great. And we do have to do a lot of hand-holding and a lot of support with communities, and we're constantly educating. But if there's any of your communities that would like the opportunity for us to come out and to speak directly to elected officials, we're happy to do that. We just had a conversation recently with the city of Keiko Harbor, where we met with the mayor and the council and staff. We did a CDBG 101 with new staff, and then stayed after and had a very lengthy conversation about what they could do with their funds for their 2019 application. We're always open to those conversations.
I appreciate and I know all the work that goes into CDBG and home funds. I would just resonate that we continue this effort to make certain that the communities are aware and avail of additional opportunities to invest in rental assistance-based programs.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, along those lines, I guess I'm a little confused. So once we receive this, then we receive the grant application from the local communities to get the money that we kind of brought forward?
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Let me be clear. We are here today to accept the program year 2018 funds. The application I was referring to was for 2019.
Got it. Okay. So, good, because then I was
Yeah.
about to lose my mind.
No.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. All right. So, along the lines that Commissioner Bowman is like, and my frustration and patience is waiting a little bit on this, and so I want to preface that like, I'm sorry. I think it's absolutely imperative that we convey to every local community that we grant that this is a priority. Well, I'll speak for myself. I would like it to be a priority for all of us. That every community looks at increasing, in some cases, going from 0 to something in support of rental assistance. Now, I don't know if that means a letter. I would like this to actually be in context of, I'll support receiving this grant because, this juncture, it's like receive it or don't receive it. It'd be stupid not to receive it. But I would feel much better if I get assurances in some way that a letter will come from us encouraging every local community to look at this. So I guess my question, I'm offered an amendment to it, as a condition of accepting it. If a letter can be sent, I can also send the letter.
I guess my recommendation is that would be handled as a separate topic to this, because this is 2018. What I think you're looking for is something considered for 2019, which I think the staff will be talking about anyway as part of future development for that application. But that does not mean we can't send out something to the municipalities to say these could potentially be available, please consider them.
Right.
I
I don't know if I'd either, a separate resolution or anything. Two things are going to happen. I would love the people who are on the front lines doing this to send a letter encouraging that. If that's not going to happen, I'm happy to send my own letter to encourage people to look at that.
Because each community does have their own duly elected officials that have to make those decisions, and it's really not our, at least in my opinion, this is me speaking now, not our position to be telling each of those elected officials what to do. We can make recommendations, say this is available, choose if you so choose, but I don't think we can direct them in a certain path.
And I just wanted to add that when we
Personally,
get calls from
I think we can,
community
but
groups
maybe we
or
should.
nonprofit organizations who are interested in receiving CDBG funds, my response to them is always, every individual municipality is required to hold a public hearing. Citizen participation is part of this process, and if you want to get yourself in the queue for the possibility of being heard in terms of what you're advocating for, my advice to you would be to make that connection with the community in July or August of every year. Because again, the application process doesn't, every year, it starts in October, and every year, the application is in December. So they only have between the middle of October and the middle of December to hold a public hearing to make their allocations known and to vote on those and to have that public process. So I always tell the nonprofits, you wanna work with folks, you wanna get your voice heard, you wanna talk about the things that are important to you, start talking to those communities in July.
And I understand that. It's also, that is how many communities are served? I mean, we have
We have, 53.
53 community. I mean, we have a professional team. I mean, it's hard enough for us to have the stuff that comes through than to ask nonprofits that literally are rubbing pennies together just to provide basic services. I want to prime the pump and say this is a priority. I mean, it is going to be a priority, and I think we need to have a conversation. That means every community needs to have this conversation. Someone needs to say this needs to be a conversation. Now, I mean, to me, it seems a little draconian for me to take the HUD letter that came in and said, oh, by the way, this came to us. This is a priority for us to address. Please address it.
I guess, but for the record, that is still in discussion and negotiation with HUD, with the administration and corporate counsel. That letter. I understand your point.
Sure. I mean, I think the information in that letter still, it rings that as a we're just not doing enough. And I do recognize there's not enough money to fix all the housing problems and everything. But we can do more, and I guess I don't want to have to go rogue. I mean, I want every community going through their process. This is important. You need to talk about it. To what Commissioner Bowman is saying, these are the options that you could also consider, and stoke the conversation. Well, is this? I mean, what I think has happened over the year. I mean, it's not surprising to me. We're not having this conversation. We adopted a strategy of prioritizing focus on home ownership, and I understand why that conclusion. What's opened my eyes is the percentage of large segments of our population that are disproportionately renters, and then I don't think anything was malicious. I think, but when I look at particularly communities of color and the percentage among that community that are renters, and yet we design a program that focuses mostly on housing, and I support the idea of getting people into homes and home ownership and the pathway to the middle class and the American dream and all that type of stuff. It leaves off this piece, and I do realize other people do other parts of it, but this conversation needs to happen, and someone needs to force this conversation in some cases, because there might be some communities that don't want to have that conversation. I get it. I mean, in my own community, the idea of home, high-density property being developed stokes a whole different conversation, and people immediately start wanting to know, are poor people going to be allowed to live in there? I mean, damn y'all to hell. I can't have that conversation. But, there's all those types of tensions, and you know what? We need to have these conversations because this is a serious issue that needs to be addressed. And I don't. What my fear is that we go to. I also set my frustration bug off is no communities said that we want to look more at rental. Maybe it's because we're not stoking the conversation. This is an important thing. Some of us are going to continue to talk about it. Some way or another, the next plan, if I have any say in the matter, is going to attempt to address this so that we're doing more in a way that provides the biggest bang for our buck with our limited resources. In a perfect world, it helps leverage additional resources so that we can do more to help that. So,
thank you. Any additional comments? Okay, roll call please on approval of the 2018 annual action plan acceptance.
Todd,
Yes.
Woodward,
yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Spiz.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 2, Department of Economic Development and Community Affairs, Community and Home Improvement Division, fiscal year 2018, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Housing Counseling Program Grant Acceptance. Again, needs to be shorter. Moved by Fleming, supported by Woodward.
Kathy Williams, the supervisor of the Housing Counseling Unit, is with us, and she will be presenting the acceptance information.
Good afternoon. Again, this is very late in the year. This is a grant that's effective October 1st, 2017. But because of the late
17.
lateness in getting it to us. They did extend the period of performance through, September 30th of 2019. Generally, it's only a 1-year period of performance, but because we didn't get it till after the period of performance ended, they're gonna give us an additional year to spend. It's $49,574, which is up significantly from last year's, which was around 30,000. So we did get some additional funding, and that was primarily because HUD is focusing on housing counseling agencies that can provide reverse mortgage foreclosure counseling. And we do have 2 counselors that are certified in that, and we're one of the few in the state of Michigan able to provide that assistance. They are issuing another NOFA, a notice of funding availability, in probably March or April for the 2018 funds. So.
Any questions, comments relative to this matter? Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In relation to reverse mortgages, are we seeing an uptick in the need for that service? I'm trying to figure out how to evaluate.
Are you
Is it
talking about the foreclosure or just for the reverse mortgages?
reverse
in
mortgage?
general? Reverse mortgages in general, the amount of counseling that we have done, it has gone up. Last year we saw 195 families, which almost half of our households, almost equal to the number of foreclosures we're seeing for reverse mortgages, because it is a way for elderly households to stay in their house and use the wealth they've accumulated without having to sell and then rent somewhere. And there are programs to do the accessibility modifications they may need. We have noticed not a tremendous change as far as after counseling, the number of people who actually obtain a reverse mortgage. It's about 50% after they talk to us. FHA has tightened up the reins a little bit about the equity they allow to be used from the house. So it's depending on your age, the older you are, the more you get. But you know, it's around 50–60% of your equity that you can actually borrow against versus, you know, 5 years ago when it was more, but because of the downturn in the market and things like that.
I mean, it's from a trend line. I mean, so those numbers are more than the previous,
Yes.
but I mean, are we seeing like I mean, it would seem to me, just given, I mean, anecdotally, I mean, a number of seniors and fixed incomes and costs continue to go up, and maybe they lost a pension, and so it's just harder to make ends meet than it would make. I mean, I'm just wondering if that, are we seeing that, are we following the same trend lines in terms of the increased utilization of this product or this mechanism?
The actual percentage of people who obtain it after receiving counseling has remained pretty consistent.
About 50,
but the number of people seeking the counseling has increased.
Has gone up. I guess I do have a general follow-up question to that. Do we know what the overall number is for Oakland County in general of people receiving reverse mortgages, and kind of comparing what is coming through us or through your department versus their overall county picture? Is that easy data to gather or no?
I can get for the state of Michigan, how many, I don't have it
I
off
just-
of my head, but just how many per county, I'm not sure if that's kept somewhere.
Okay. I'm just wondering, if we can compare data. All right. Any other additional questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Woodward,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Taub,
Yes.
Spiz.
Yes. Motion carries. Great. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Next, we have item number 3, Economic Development and Community Affairs Resolution abolishing the provisions of a Brownfield Plan Amendment for the 585 East South Boulevard City of Pontiac project. Mr. Hunter and Mr. Hanson.
Good afternoon.
Excuse me, motion moved by Taub, supported by Bowman. Okay,
Switching gears.
moved by Bowman, supported by Fleming.
Gotcha.
Understand.
Switching gears from a very, very important program, serving the community, to site redevelopment program. What you have before you is a resolution requesting the abolishment of a brownfield in Pontiac that is now housed by United Shore. So 10 months ago, this was approved as a brownfield, not a very large one, but at their request, for reasons unknown, not indicated in their letter in your packet, they've requested that it be terminated and those taxing dollars go to the jurisdictions. This was approved by our Brownfield Authority a couple of weeks ago at our last meeting. To some extent, it's a little discouraging because a lot of work goes into these. Equalization, sitting here, Mary and Stacy and Brad, working with the companies and the Brownfield consultants, but let's have at it. Why not? So we would ask for your support in this resolution.
All right. Commissioner Taub, David's next.
Yes, I will be voting on this, but I want to say that I'm somewhat related to some of the people in this business. But I've never heard of this before.
This came before the board back in January.
No,
the
no,
abolishment.
Oh,
no.
the abolishment.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the first time.
Okay, see,
I
I'm
mean,
not so.
these are,
Yeah.
these are typically really challenged sites. This one a little less so, but we've not seen this before.
Yeah, I mean,
So what are they going to do about the portion that was quote unquote a brownfield? Are,
well, here's the thing is, through the back channels, I heard that the understanding behind this is their project came way under budget. So, going into this project, there was the threat of having something dug up that they didn't know about. So they wanted to basically have this as insurance in case that showed up. Well, that never showed up. So basically their project came way under budget. They didn't feel the need to get the taxpayer monies that goes along with the brownfield and TIF. They thought it would be better used for the city of Pontiac, Oakland County, ISD, etc. So they requested to be abolished.
how much
So
was-
there was no much.
Let's give them a plaque.
I will give them a
I'm not
plaque.
sure we're gonna see a lot of these
Yeah.
in the future.
Agreed.
I think it's wonderful.
Commissioner Bowman.
My curiosity was relative to the brownfield abatement. What essentially are they giving up in terms of dollar amount for support of that project?
We never saw invoices come in as far as how much they actually spent on brownfield eligible activities, but the OCBRA, this board, and the full board of commissioners approved up to $2.4 million. Like I said, it came in significantly under budget as far as that the eligible activities of brownfield goes, but we never saw an invoice package. So, but the full approval was for $2.4 million.
Any other additional questions on this matter? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Fleming,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Spiz.
Yes. Motion carries. Great. Item number 4, Economic Development and Community Affairs Resolution approving the provisions of a brownfield amendment for the Ford Wixom, City of Wixom. Moved by Fleming, supported by Woodward. Gentlemen.
This is a true brownfield in every sense of the word.
Wixom plant.
This is an amendment, so this was a brownfield that we had done in 2011 without any sort of tax capture. It was not a developer, but we felt it was helpful to sort of put together a framework, working with the city to start a brownfield. Now we have a developer, they're top notch. They've actually owned some really right there at South Boulevard, almost across from the previous project we were talking about, and they've done terrific there. They have a great plan. They're going to spend 125, 150 million at the Ford Wixom site. There is some serious contamination that they will deal with, concrete removal, and Brad, anything else?
Probably vapor barriers on all the buildings that they're putting up, just with the extra precaution, especially in today's climate of where they're still dealing with down in Franklin, the shopping center with the vapor barrier issues. So it's today's world, vapor barrier. I heard some environmental consultants say the vapor barrier today is yesterday's asbestos. So you're just going to get used to hearing about vapor barriers. It's the way to go today, especially with the requirements as far as cleanup.
Actually, the developer, the name's a little Detroit Wixom LLC. They're out of Ohio, out of the Cleveland area, and they have done half a dozen
Cleveland, it's not
projects working with former Ford facilities and turning them into real productive use. So the zoning in Wixom is a general industrial. This is probably the largest site in Oakland County that has rail that could be developed. So we like that very much. And with a developer that has the experience, we feel really, really solid, and the folks in Wixom are really happy.
Commissioner Taub.
Did you say Ford is going in there or staying there?
No, Ford is.
I know it was Ford before.
Ford is
Yeah.
done, yes.
Okay, so you don't know exactly what's going in there yet?
No,
No, they have, they're in negotiations with at least the northern 10 acres for a company that would bring 200 jobs to it. It's still under wraps. I don't know the name of it personally. But they're building this, a lot of ways it's just speculative builds, but with their track record, they have a great track record of bringing companies to their product when it's cleaned up and redeveloped.
Maybe they can hurry up. We got some
Well,
layoffs coming up.
the last time a product rolled off the line was in 2007. So it's been, 11 years, it'll be 2 years, 3 years for development of the site. So, we're talking a chunk of time here. So better late than never.
Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call please.
Bowman?
Yes.
Cobb?
Yes,
Woodward?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Spiz?
Yes. Motion carries. Great, thank you. I need to also announce to
Thank
set
you.
the public hearing for December 6, 2018 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next, we move on to communications. We have a letter from the Farmington Hills dated October 12, 2018, regarding the Grand River Corridor Improvement Authority 2018 annual report. Anything else from a communication standpoint? Questions? Commissioner
yes,
Taub?
I would like to thank Irene Spanos for the wonderful work she's done for Oakland County and tell her that we will miss her.
Thank you. You're welcome. I was gonna do that under other business, but you jumped the gun a little bit. That's okay. Get a motion to receive and file the communications? Moved by Fleming, supported by Woodward. All in favor of receiving and filing, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Communications has been received and filed. Other business? Any other comments?
I was gonna say, yeah.
Commissioner Taub?
One thing to Mr. Woodward, I don't know if you know what Oakland County Youth Assistance is. It's here, for you.
I hope so.
Yes, very much so.
It's an organization for local youth assistance.
Correct.
And we have obtained for a number of years a phenomenal grant that is given out as needed. Social workers throughout the county will report to the main office, to Mary Schuster Bauer, and when they have a family that is helping rent or food or furnace broke down, whatever, that money is available. That's what this grant is for. It's a very wonderful philanthropic idea from some people in Oakland County who will remain nameless because we're not ever allowed to tell their name. But they give us a sizable grant to carry someone over for a month or to pay the first and last month, besides other, for that type of issue, emergency funds when needed. Not fun funds, but emergency funds.
How much?
It's either 20 or 25,000, which, yeah, it's a wonderful, I don't remember the exact amount. Every year it climbs, so, which is wonderful. And it's a good thing. And our social workers are using it in many of our school districts. Because of course, that's where
First
it's
frontline
on the
defense.
school.
Any other questions, comments?
Nope.
Irene, thank you very much for all your service and what you've done for Oakland County. Even though I know you're staying with Oakland County, you're gonna help support Oakland County. I hate to see you go, but you're going to a good location and you'll be able to help others, so thank you very much.
Right.
I've enjoyed
great.
working with all of you, and I've enjoyed getting to know all of you, and the work that we do here, I cannot be prouder or happier.
Good to hear, good to hear. We may be calling on you in the future, we'll see.
Anytime.
All right.
I'll be sharing my new project.
Okay, great. With that, I'll call us adjourned at 2:49.